how to deal with, navigate, and heal from extreme PTSD, anxiety, and prolonged stress states, even short-term stress states, but especially those long-term, terrifying states of stress that sometimes, every now and then, some people go through, and maybe lots of people go through. But these extreme states of stress can be very frightening to work our way through. Hello, my name is Emma, and I am going to be sharing with you today in this video how to navigate PTSD, extreme states of PTSD, from my first-hand experience. I'll be sharing what I did, the tools that I learned along the way to help myself, and while these things have all helped me, they're just suggestions that help me. So everyone is different. Your pathway to healing and navigating this type of stress in your body, or the way that your body responds and reacts to stress, may be unique for you. So this will not be a one-size-fits-all. It's a suggestion and a support and a resource, and hopefully, very hopefully, what's worked for me might also work for you. So thank you for being here. I am a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, and I've been sharing a lot of the tools and somatic and nervous system regulation exercises on my channel that help me with this process and this journey of balancing myself out after having gone through a lot of different stress states and PTSD at different times in my life. So I have notes, many notes that I've written down, which I'll be reading from this video, for the different sections of support and resources I'd like to share with you. Feel free to comment below as you're watching this if you have questions or commentary on what I'm sharing. So bear with me as I share a little bit of my story first, just so you know what my experiences were, and it might help to know whether what I'm sharing might help you. So I would say, I'm going to have a little bit of water first. I would say probably maybe even 9 or 10 years ago, but it probably started a lot earlier at varying degrees. I experienced an explosion of PTSD through my system. An explosion, to say the least. It was like maybe accumulated experiences in my life from different areas, maybe younger beliefs and experiences that I'd had accumulated in the background of my psyche, my nervous system, and different events at a certain point in my life, in my mid-20s, resulted in my capacity being exploded, I would say. A complete overwhelm. I would imagine that something just deep got triggered off, where it was like, no more, we can't handle this anymore, whatever it is. Now, I want to share a little bit about my journey without getting too personal, because I'd like to preserve my own, privacy in other ways, while still sharing and helping in whatever way I can. So with PTSD and anxiety, it's nuanced in trying to understand what causes it to get triggered off. A lot of people have a different opinion on whether it's a chemical reaction in the brain, whether it's nutritional deficiencies, whether it's trauma, and definitely it's trauma. But, is it primarily traumas that are happening in the present time? Is it younger traumas that get triggered off by certain events? Is it accumulated stress that we don't even realize is trauma, that just becomes too much, that results in a state of PTSD, along with nutritional elements, imbalances in certain vitamins? Medical medium Anthony William has been a great resource for me nutritionally on this topic. He talks about heavy metals contributing to stress states that are harder to dissolve. When it comes to PTSD and anxiety, that's his view on it, and that makes sense to me in some ways. You might have emotional traumas, physical traumas, any other trauma in the nervous system, and then if you also have these nutritional, physical health elements going on, it can cause an inability for the body to calm itself down, because you've got a physical component being fired off and out of balance, and you've got the emotional mental component, and they can create this circuitry that doesn't know how to stop itself. And I would say for myself, probably that's what happened. But I reached a point where there was too much going on for me emotionally. There were circumstances that I felt extremely overwhelmed by. I had all these unresolved fears and traumas that were being triggered up. I couldn't actually name all of those things for you or for myself at the time. A lot of it was conscious but unconscious. I think I knew what was going on, but if I mentally tried to talk myself through it, I still couldn't stop the PTSD. So what that looked like for me was I didn't sleep pretty much for a minimum of 6 months. And when I say I didn't sleep, I mean I didn't sleep. I want to clarify that a little bit. Maybe I got like 30 minutes to an hour of sleep here or there, but then I'd be woken up by a PTSD trigger that I couldn't control. And then I'd have to get up and do breathing techniques, whatever exercises that I could do to calm my nervous system down. And then maybe I'd get to sleep for a little bit again, and then I'd be triggered off again. So it wasn't that I had a issue with sleep, it was that PTSD was being triggered off. So for a while there, I created like a fear loop of thinking that I couldn't sleep, fearing not being able to sleep, and that fed into the PTSD just as much. So when it was at its worst, at the very beginning when it first exploded, I didn't sleep for a week. And so you can imagine what happened there. So much fear, so much physical distress, living on adrenaline and cortisol. The PTSD kept cycling and cycling and cycling. I was terrified of myself. I was terrified of my own brain. I was terrified of my life. I felt like a darkness was trying to get me and overtake me. I felt afraid of God or my own spirituality. I felt like nothing was safe, which is probably a key component in there at a belief level and what was being triggered off. There was a deep level of unsafety in my physical life, in my personal life, in the way I was feeling about certain circumstances, and spiritually. There was nowhere to go inside of me that I felt safe, physically, mentally, in the world, in my body, in my life, in my soul. And at this time in my life, I'd had some, I guess you might call it spiritual trauma or spiritual abuse, or been through circumstances spiritually that caused me to really want to disconnect because I was untrusting of that other world or spiritual groups and experiences I'd been exposed to and what I'd been exposed to spiritually. And that's kind of like a deeper, more esoteric topic there. But that created greater distrust in the universe, in my own soul, and my connection to my higher power, my wisdom, just my own instincts and intuition in life. And all of these things coupled together with nutritional deficiencies. I was probably dealing with a viral load. Definitely I was dealing with a viral load that had accumulated probably since I was in high school. And that probably fed into the sensitivity in my nervous system, the sense of inflammation in my brain, and if I had heavy metals in my system, which probably I did, I imagine, according to medical medium information, which I'll share his books and links in the description below. His nutritional information I really I've got a lot of help from. If that was going on, the viral load, anything else I had in my system that might have been contributing, plus that extreme sense of unsafety, unresolved personal traumas from different areas and different things, belief systems of feeling unsafe, not feeling safe spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and then not being able to sleep. And this created this loop, and it kept going and going and going, and I was getting a lot of support. I went to see psychics because I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. I've got nothing to lose. I don't know how to take myself forward. I don't know what the future is. Nothing feels safe. I may as well get someone else to tell me what to do. And bless that psychic soul, but they told me a bunch of stuff that didn't feel right for me at all, that made me feel even more terrified and miserable, like I had no control over my life, or I wasn't allowed to have good things somehow, and that bad things were just happening. I felt completely trapped. So this went on for quite a while. The not sleeping, trying to cope. At least 6 months I was living with a friend, someone I'd met through online for a share house. This was a really great person, lovely person, really helpful, but I still felt very alone because I wasn't able to really communicate to others what was going on, or they didn't understand or know how to help me. And I also had a counselor at that time. I was working with an EMDR therapist helping with PTSD and stuff. That did help, but I was so exploded at a trauma level, at a somatic level, at all these different elements happening at once, that it helped and it was invaluable, but it didn't stop it at the time. I was also working with a network care chiropractor, which is like a nerve system chiropractor, gentle chiropractic. And I still work with that kind of chiropractor today, and it's amazing. That all really helped. It all calmed me down temporarily, but it didn't stop the circuit. It didn't stop the cycle, this uncontrollable sense of force, this thing that I just could not calm down. So I did have some support. I did have a little bit of family support in whatever ways one of my family members knew how to, helping to resource some of the things that I needed. But I ended up having to seek out other financial support to pay for all the things I was trying just to get to sleep. Because if you can't sleep, you feel like you're going to die, and it's very terrifying. Okay, so in this next part of the video, thank you for listening for this part of the story. I'm going to read from some of my notes and use that as a prompt because I've written down the parts that I want to cover. And I will draw on different stories just as a reference to help you perhaps relate and not feel alone in this experience along the way. So bear with me with that process. Okay, so I have my notes here, many pages of notes. If I find the time, I may even put these in a PDF that you can download just as a physical resource to refer back to, but I am going to link a lot of things in the description of this video as well. So I'm going to just talk you through what I did to help myself out of it, and I'll probably give backstory as I'm talking through that around the journey of how I found that information or how I worked out it was going to be helpful. But I'll do my best. It might not be linear in, the steps that I took, but that's okay. Okay, so one element I did want to recover. A lot of this stuff I found after the fact. I found after the worst of the PTSD, and the way I coped, I want to say coped because I didn't really fully start healing. The way I coped at first was desperation, trying all sorts of things, Chinese herbs. I did take sleeping pills very briefly, but that felt dangerous to me, and I came off that very quick. They worked, but they didn't work. It was like a false sense of rest. So I took some other herbs to help get to sleep, just medicinal herbs, not like drugs. And they did help. They helped, but they never got to the core, which I feel the core was for me. Along with the nutritional side, that really helped as well, but the core was an explosion of traumatic stress that I couldn't calm down and a deep sense of unsafety, looking back now. So I'm going to go over nutrition and supplements that have helped, that I learned after the fact and really accelerated my body's sense of calm. I felt like this started to really heal my brain, my adrenals after a couple of years of extreme stress. So my adrenals were just stuffed. And also I went on a massive, and have been on a massive health journey after dealing with a couple of years. And it actually even longer, but the worst of it was a couple of years of extreme PTSD. And the very worst of that was minimum 6 months of just terror zone PTSD. But I coped, strangely enough. I survived. So the nutrition and supplements that helped me, which I learned from medical medium, I found this later on, but I got really, really sick. So I don't want to say this to scare you, but if you have these tools, you might be able to prevent or support your body from and your immune system from getting really broken down by stress, and just ease that process. Because when I was dealing with a lot of the stress, I was running, doing a lot of exercise during the day to try and calm my body so I could rest at night. It helped me to calm throughout the day, but it didn't calm me at night because it wasn't getting to the source of stress. And unfortunately, over time, what that did was I wasn't sleeping. I was pushing my body too hard during the day. And I was dealing with so much cortisol and stress and adrenaline throughout the day and fear that my immune system lowered so much. And I got really, really, really sick. Really sick, and I've been recovering and healing from that since. I'm not in the position that I was, but it's a journey, and I'm on that journey, and I'm grateful for it. I think you're supposed to say that, right? No, I truly have learned a lot from it. Okay, back to the facts. Nutritional support and supplements. So I learnt this from medical medium Anthony William. Magnesium glycinate. This one was really great. I actually have the brand I use here. He shares this one. It's a very clean one. It is called Vimagir. You can get this from floweroflife.com.au in Australia and from vimagir.com in other places in the world. This is just a clean magnesium glycinate. You could use any magnesium glycinate. I just use these products because medical medium suggests them. I've found them to be very clean, very pure, and very effective. So you need smaller amounts to do the same thing because it's what the product says it is. At least that's how it feels to be. So I'll link to these sites below. Magnesium glycinate really help with sleep just before bed, help with restless legs, a lot of the twitching from your nerves and probably other nutritional things, and kind of help my body to calm throughout the day. Again, I didn't start using this particular magnesium at least until about 2.5 years, maybe even 3, after the severe PTSD. So you could start using this from the beginning. You might get a lot more help. And the reason I didn't start is because I just didn't know. I didn't find this information until I got really, really sick. And I got really, really sick after the PTSD was really, really bad for a while. Long time. Okay, magnesium glycinate. Then B12, adenosylcobalamin and methylcobalamin. This is all medical medium Anthony Williams suggestions, but this one is really good. So I'm going to have a little bit. It's under the tongue. It's so relaxing. So apparently, according to him, the adenosylcobalamin, you really want this because it goes directly to your neurological system and your nervous system, according to medical medium. I've found that to be true so far. This one has methylcobalamin as well. I think, I could be wrong about this. I think that's more towards the lungs, the muscular system. I'm not sure. But especially for your nervous system, for PTSD and anxiety, you really want one with adenosylcobalamin. Anthony William, medical medium, has a lot of links and information about this on his websites. I will try and link them below, and articles about these supplements and why they work with PTSD and stuff. So I'll link that. But this one has been great. Again, I didn't use this till after the fact. It really helps with mood as well, like depression and anxiety and just feeling better and happier, brain stabilization. Apparently it's good for people who deal with things like bipolar as well. So it's calming down all that heat in the brain and that mental activity, according to medical medium. So this is not my information. Again, I want to say also, with me sharing this, like, this is not, like, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor or yoga teacher, meditation teacher. And so you probably want to consult your doctor or physician or whomever to find out what would work for you. So yeah, this is just entertainment purposes, really. Like, I'm sharing what I've used, but you need to seek your appropriate professionals for what's right for you. But all the links will be below. This is medical medium information, so I'll link that as well. And that's where it comes from. Valerian for sleep. This is the one I used while I was in the midst of the worst of it. I'm gonna have some water because talking. So this one I used as a tea. So I found this from like my local health food store, like bulk health food store. I drank this as a tea before bed and it was very relaxing. It really did help. Again, it didn't resolve the core of what was creating the PTSD, but it helped manage to calm my system down. And anything you can do when you're going through that much stress that gives you a sense of relief gives you hope. And hope is so important because hope is like this string, this strength of faith that carries you through, that there is actually going to be light on the other side, that there is an end to that tunnel of darkness and fear you're going through. And that sounds so like poetic, but it's true. You need hope. And maybe you want faith, and maybe you want belief, and maybe you just want to know, and maybe you do, but maybe you really don't, and hope is all you've got. And hope is a really good place to start. Hope is important. So these experiences, strangely enough, forced me to reconnect with my spirituality, because I had a very full-on spiritual journey before all this when I was a bit younger. And maybe my trying to disconnect from those experiences, this was another way of bringing me back home as well, and back to my path, a purpose in a way. And I really think it has, which is the gratitude part, apparently. So those are 3 supplements that helped specifically with relaxation. There's so many more that are going to support your nervous system and your adrenals. You really want to focus on your adrenal health while you're going through this, so your body doesn't exhaust and you're not completely running on cortisol. You kind of want your body to be running off of glucose, so you want to make sure you're getting enough glucose, healthy sugars like your fruits, your honey, coconut water, potatoes, sweet potatoes, pumpkin, dates that you're eating regularly, so your adrenals and your body are running off the glucose in your bloodstream. Medical media information as well, what I'm saying right now, instead of cortisol. So your adrenals aren't constantly, you're not fasting constantly while you're under this stress, constantly releasing out adrenaline and cortisol into your bloodstream, and living off of that hormone, that chemical being released, and not actual sustenance. Because when you're living off of cortisol, your adrenals get exhausted. Those supplies of adrenaline that should be there for extreme states of having to protect yourself from actual danger are just getting used to exist. And your adrenals, this is where you get adrenal fatigue. And this is what creates even more exhaustion, fatigue. It creates a lack of resilience in being able to deal with these extreme stress states, because you're already on empty. You don't have enough of the right chemicals and hormones to balance you out, because you are so fried. You are so fried and exhausted. It feels like being like a wasteland on crack. So before we move forward, I want to share a friend gave this to me. This is a valerian supplement. I'm currently using Enki. I don't have like any affiliate links to this. I've just tried it for the first time, and this one's really relaxing as well. I'm not sure the exact ingredients in it. It says it has skullcap and valerian, but I don't know any additional ingredients. So this might be something I try temporarily, but it's just an example. I think this was got in Australia from like Go Vita, a health food store. So that's an example. So Medical Medium talks about when you're dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety, and I've used these tools to help me physically, which helped to calm everything else I was dealing with down. He talks about getting enough glucose, like I just mentioned. Enough, what he calls critical clean carbohydrates. So these are things like, and this is for your liver's glucose storage, so that glucose gets, according to him, stored in the liver and then released as needed. But if you don't have enough glucose storage in your liver, when you go through a stress state and your body doesn't have any glucose to draw on, then you start feeding off of adrenaline, and your body can, I think it has something to do with how your brain processes the traumatic event. It just doesn't have enough sugars or glucose to handle the stress, and can hold more of that fear in your system, in your body, at a body level longer, instead of processing it, releasing it, and moving forward like some people are more easily able to do. So there, according to Medical Medium, there is a physical component. That's what he says. If that's true, that's wonderful. It has worked for me, so I'm assuming there could be some truth to it. So sources of that, what he calls critical clean carbohydrates, are potatoes, like I mentioned, sweet potatoes, pumpkin, things like raw honey. He says especially having a spoonful of raw honey before bed is really good for your brain. You get that glucose to your brain immediately, calms down the heat in your brain, and is great for sleep. I've found that to be helpful too. Maple syrup is a good source of glucose, and it's also got vitamins and minerals in it. Bananas are amazing. It's an excellent source of glucose. Dates, like I mentioned before, mangoes, papayas. He also says that while blueberries are really powerful for when you're dealing with stress, that they're really good for the brain. You can find them in most shops these days or health food stores. Wild blueberries, not just blueberries. So they're smaller and they're really dark purple on the inside. And he has a link to information about that on one of his blog websites. I'll link that below as well. I found them to be powerful, and they are apparently good for drawing out heavy metals from the brain and different parts of the body as well. So I will link his heavy metal detox smoothie as well, and all the other sites to those supplements if you're interested in those brands. Otherwise, you could find a brand that works for you. So also another thing, coconut water, that one's really great. Cools down my brain really quickly if I'm going through stress. You get that glucose immediately through your bloodstream because you're drinking it straight away. Lemon water, so squeezing lemon into your water, especially in the morning. Apparently that helps to stimulate your liver as well and stimulate a detoxifying process in the morning. And apparently this is medical medium information as well. I feel like I'm just like a medical medium advocate right now. But this is just the nutrition part that's helped me so far in my life so far. Who knows if that will change? We'll see. So the water is, you want, with the lemon in your water, he says the lemon has living water in the actual juice of the lemon, which reactivates the water. So often water kind of comes dead through not being living streams and through taps and all this kind of stuff. And when you get it, it's just like the water's just kind of lost its life and its energy and its oxygen. And he says squeezing lemon into the water activates and oxygenates the water for drinking and helps to cool down the body and brain and really fully rehydrate your system, which really helps your neurotransmitters. It really helps with dealing with stress. It helps the electrical impulses in your brain to travel along more easily because it's not fried, running on like dust. Not literally dust, but you know what I mean, that sensation of dust. So as I mentioned before with the adrenal support, Medical Medium also talks about the adrenal snacks that you can have every 2 to 3 hours. So this could be you just finding something that you feel good eating every 2 to 3 hours to make sure you're running on glucose instead of adrenaline. But he suggests ideally you want it to be things that are not like fat-based, that actually are high in glucose in that way and that are absorbed into the bloodstream quicker. It's just going to be way more efficient and probably better for you. He has some recipes on his website. When I say recipes, I mean like combinations of food that are really good in terms of the glucose, the mineral salts, and the nutrients that you get in the little package. An example being, one of his adrenal snack suggestions are having some medjool dates or some fresh dates, some apples sliced up, and some celery sticks. So the celery sticks are the mineral salts, dates and apples are the glucose and other minerals, etc. But he has a whole list of combos that are helpful. The way I used that was I often just had dates because I really like dates every 2 to 3 hours, or some other snack to make sure I was getting enough to eat. When I was starting to heal physically, that's something I incorporated and found a lot of benefit from because my adrenals were fried. It used to feel like my adrenals were pinching my lower back, like I was being squeezed, so exhausted, because they were literally just exhausted from any healthy hormone or cortisol or whatever it's called, but they were fried. There was no juice left in my adrenals type of thing. So I did notice over time, with supporting my adrenals with this regular eating and the types of foods that I was eating, that pinching started to go away. So I don't feel it that often unless my body is really run down now, or I'm just not aware of it in the same way that I was. So I definitely feel like I've restored those glucose levels, where it's probably my liver's glucose levels are back up, and I have something to draw on instead of this cortisol. So the biggest difference I noticed in my physical body when it came to this stress and PTSD, or the best things that I'd applied, at least up until this date, were the medical medium protocols for my health, because what I was dealing with health-wise was my body completely shut down. That's another story I might go into a bit later on. But his protocols, especially adding a lot more fruits in, helped to heal my gut, a lot of potatoes, a lot more greens, sweet potatoes, just enough glucose like I've gone into. It really helped to calm down my brain, calm down my body. It felt like my bloodstream started to calm down. And just, like I said, my adrenals started to heal and restore. And it felt like, healing any stress. He talks sometimes about this thing called scar tissue developing in the brain from stress or other things, maybe physical stresses, things going into our body that aren't meant to be there, that cause issues. And I definitely noticed that sensation of different parts of your brain just calming and soothing down. Okay, so that was the nutritional part. I'm going to skip quickly to some of the spiritual components I use, and then we will move on to nervous system. Just because I started these spiritual components earlier on. So when I was in my most desperate times with this PTSD, there was one time, I wanted to share this story for whatever reason. There was one time where I hadn't slept in a week. My body was, literally, I didn't feel comfortable sleeping anywhere but my car. That sense of safety was not in my psyche, body being at the time, whether that was rational or not. It was firing off in me. And I wasn't sleeping in my car either. So it's like I kept imploding on myself. And nothing I could do could calm myself down. It was like this thing was trying to get me. And I was staying at an Airbnb or just a temporary living situation. And I remember going there one night and I didn't even feel safe to sleep there. I had the place to myself. I was renting it by myself. It's a lovely place. And so on the first night I got in there, after not sleeping for a week, I was so profoundly exhausted. I had to try and walk up the stairs, and I remember crying because I was in so much emotional pain, physical pain, exhaustion, but I was just so scared. I was so scared of everything, and I just didn't feel safe. I think I keep coming back to that, and I think that's the core healing principle at the end of all this. So I tried to sleep in my car, but I couldn't because the PTSD was firing off, and it was firing off, and it was firing off. But I had my blanket in the car, I had my doona, and I lay down, and it was raining, and it was cold. And I was so desperate and afraid. And so I just prayed. I just prayed to the angels to help me, like with whatever outcome, because I had given up I didn't have anything else I could do. So I just prayed. And also remembering I've been trying to resist my spiritual journey to a degree, my natural connection to angels, which I was more into beforehand, but then had some spiritual trauma go on. So I was resisting connecting in the ways that I usually would. So I prayed to my angels for help. And the next thing I know, I'd closed my eyes, and it was probably like an hour or two later, I woke up. I'd fallen asleep for the first time in like a week, like actually fallen asleep. My body went to rest. I don't remember what happened. I don't remember what I dreamed. I just woke up to the sound of rain and to an exhilarated sense of relief. And like a miracle had happened. I think I even asked for a miracle or something like that. and the miracle in my body and my everything that happened. And I know that the angels helped me with that. Well, they have to have, or something helped me with that. And I personally believe in angels. Just, it feels good to me, and my experiences confirm that for me, and that's just how my world perceives things. And I do believe in them, for sure. And yeah, and so I grabbed my doona and I walked back up those stairs and I went to bed again. I don't know if I properly fully slept in that bed. I was still dealing with feelings of safety, but it didn't matter. That was a moment of turning. Things started to turn in the direction of safety. Just that 1 hour of sleep. It didn't mean that I was able to continue that for 6 months. I still went through my 6 months of pretty much no sleep, or just little bits and then trauma. Little bits and trauma. So the effects were still extreme PTSD. But it started to store that little bit of safety and faith in me, that little bit of hope, and that little bit of trust. And here's another one as well. So I'm not religious. Personally, I'm not into religion, but I've always loved Jesus since I was a kid. I still have a relationship I'm beginning to trust with Jesus, just because of the way that certain religions use his image to do hateful things, like horrible, nasty, hateful things. And all the stories they tell about him and things he says, or what he wants you to do or not do, or be or not be, and none of that feels any good to me ever. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But I was in an extreme state of PTSD one night. I was trying to sleep, and it was so filled with trauma and fear, like feeling of knives in your blood, that heat in knives just running through your blood all night, and the fear, and it was just like worse, and you could feel your body almost breaking down from the stress and fear, but not being able to do anything about it. And that was, created even more fear, because you can feel yourself getting worse, but you cannot stop the momentum of pain and fear and fear and fear and fear. Anyway, I was at a desperate point. I don't know whether I'd asked angels for help, but I specifically asked Jesus for help. I thought, well, let's just try anything at this point. So I asked Jesus for help. And immediately I felt this cool kind of white, almost like light, but this cool spirited light. This light just kind of like this cool air blow through my bloodstream, through my chest, through my heart, through my soul, maybe even through my spirit. It was just this, but it felt like this of cool, calm air throughout my whole system. My whole system relaxed, and I'm pretty sure I fell asleep after that. This didn't stop the PTSD, like I might have fallen asleep for an hour or two, but it got me out of that state. And for me, I perceive Jesus as an equal being to all of us. For me, he's just a homie. He's just a bro. He's just a cool kid who did some really wicked stuff on the planet. And he, as that person, as a teacher, like many of the teachers, he's just showing us, like, it's inside of you. I am you. You are me. And you're Christ consciousness. You are the Christed one. You are the, however you want to perceive it, you are that light that I was trying to show everyone this whole time. And then they got really lost, really, really lost in their attempts to work it out. That you're it. We're God. It's in us. We are that light. We hold it internally. Anyway, so that was another experience of connecting with spirituality, connecting with light, so the angels, Jesus. Mostly I personally resonate with the angels and that kind of connection to source in that way, into God in that way, not in a religious sense. To me, God is love. It is a benevolent light, a benevolent energy. It is warm, it is loving, it is unconditional. She is all embracing. She, he, they, it. It's just an energy of love, in my opinion. But I had to really, this whole process of just the way I'm talking about these concepts right now is regaining trust in a higher power, that I am loved, that I am supported, that I am safe, that I am worthy, that it is safe to be me in this world, that who I am is right and good. But primarily that it's safe, and that it's safe to trust on this loving light that is my own soul, that is my own path, it is the universe, all that kind of stuff. And I found for me personally, this was maybe because it tied into how some of my stress states were created, but having this sense of connection to my spirituality, to spiritual support, to a higher power, which is just my highest self, the higher power that we all are a part of, that really helped start to carve a path energetically, emotionally, mentally of safety in my system, to start guiding me back home to me, to start guiding me back home to safety in my body. It started to guide me to resources like medical medium information. I feel that's how I feel it helped come into my life. Or it could be other things, guiding me towards foods that were good to eat, guiding me towards people I would synchronistically bump into that would reinforce this loving spiritual connection I've always had. Not in an overt way, just in a way that, like, you're safe, it's all good, life is good, like you'll be guided, relax, trust. Those types of connections that brought me back home to me, that connected me with my true nature, just safety spiritually. And that ultimately led me to trusting my choices better, to trusting my own discernment, trusting that I could make choices that would keep me safe. And if I made a choice and something bad happened, the choice wasn't bad. That sometimes bad things just happen and they don't have anything to do with you, or even if they have something to do with you, sometimes they're just not your fault. Like, they aren't a result of the choices you made. I think I started to really not trust my own ability to choose in my life, because things were happening that were hurting me, or I was feeling unsafe about, or traumatized by. And I would think, well, I put myself here, or I was here, when, you just start to lose trust in the steps you take in life. So really connecting with my spirituality, my soul, my own intuitive nature again, which is very strong and always has been very strong in me, helped me to just start trusting my life, trusting myself, trusting my choices. And that's so important, I feel, in healing from PTSD and anxiety, because a lot of it, as I keep reiterating and realizing now, is a lack of trust. A lack of trust in self, a lack of trust in being supported, a lack of trust in the future. And that comes from, quite obviously, I'm realizing as I'm speaking, bad, traumatic, scary things happen. It does break trust, or it does injure trust, because you're like, why would something so horrible happen? Or why would these mean things occur? Or why would these events take place if I was safe and I was loved? Or if I could trust myself, like, why would I put myself in that position? Or how did I get here? So I really wanted to share those two stories. There's more in there. There's a lot in there. But that was a really pivotal part of where my journey started to shift. And I think, connecting with that internal guidance really helped to turn that corner. Well, just build that safety of being supported, which led to all the physical steps that I took and continue to take to support myself to actually heal physically, mentally, emotionally. But without that spiritual trust, that spiritual faith, that spiritual safety, like, we're all lost anyway. Like, how do we guide ourselves through life if we can't trust ourselves? And maybe you see it just as your own, being able to trust your own nature, your own brain, your own consciousness, being able to trust in the physical nature around you. It doesn't have to be the way I personally identify these concepts of spirituality. It could be something very different or not even close to you. But the principles of trusting in life, that's a feeling that I think we all know. It's trusting in the life living in you, trusting in your own heartbeat, in your own gut. Just trusting that the sun rises and sets and that everything's in a perfect place. That you're here and you're meant to be here, right where you are. So trust in something bigger in this life that you're a part of and that you were made of. And in sharing this right now, I'm getting the lesson. Well, not the lesson, but I'm realizing this even deeper. It's something I probably knew the whole time, but I'm really realizing how important that has been to dealing with perhaps what created those fears and stresses in me. and finding my way through it. Because we all need that string of hope that connects us up. We all need something to hold on to, even if that's just a connection to our own soul and to that light. So I'm going to make this video 2 parts because I only got through the first 2 sections of my notes. But today that'll be enough. I will re-record the second part. I will link whatever I've shared in the description below, to whatever links to supplements, articles, whatever I've mentioned that has a link that is relevant. And hopefully I will intend to share the notes I have on this topic as well. If that's relevant as well, I might make that in a PDF. But otherwise, any relevant information will be in the description, linked below. Thank you so much for listening to this. Feel free to comment or share your experiences if you're going through anything like this. If you are in it right now, there is another side. I said this to a friend the other day. You know what? Even if it gets worse for a bit, it will get better after that. It just will. It has to. It's law. I thought I would die several times from that and from other things, from health stuff too. And I didn't. And somewhere I knew underneath it all, maybe probably that wouldn't happen. But even if it gets worse for a little bit, it will get better. It has to. It has to, and you will get through it. So I hope this video has helped you. I have also a membership called the Heartswell membership on Patreon, where I share, and I will be sharing extra monthly videos. I plan to put this on the YouTube side at some stage as well, so feel free to check that out. That will be linked below. Okay, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed this. Bye-bye.